Hello. In this video, I'm going to try and teach you how to rearrange equations. The way I was taught at school is to remember change side, change sign. Now what that means is, if you move something, right, there's an equal sign in an equation. If you move something from one side to the other, you have to change its sign, and it's just the opposite. So if you have like 2 plus x equals 1, you move the x to the other side, it becomes 2 equals 1 minus x. So plus x becomes minus x. Something like sine x equals a half. If I wanted to move the sine to the other side, it would become inverse sine. Basically change sine, whatever it is, you make the opposite of it on the other side. It works, but I don't really like this rule because it can confuse people. If you have an equation like 2 plus 1 over x equals y, and you want x on the other side, you can't just move it, you know. Change side, you might think you can just do, multiply by x on the other side because it's been divided here. You can't do that because it's not on its own. There's a 2 plus 1 over x. You can't do that. What you have to do is you have to move the 2 to the other side first, and you get 1 over x equals y minus 2, and then you can move x if you want, because it's now on its own. That is why I think it sometimes confuses people, because this rule doesn't really tell you that. And the way I think of it is you do something to the equation. I'll explain. Basically, if you have an equation here, 2 equals 2, if you do something to the first side, as long as you do the same thing to the other side, they will always equal. What do I mean by do something? That could range from adding a number, subtracting a number, multiplying by a number, dividing by a number, even like taking the sine or cos of a number. You can literally do anything to one side. As long as you do the same thing to the other side, they will equal. So I mean, it's kind of obvious if you think about it. 2 plus 2 equals 2 plus 2. 2 minus 3 equals 2 minus 3. In this case I'm adding 2, in this case I'm subtracting 3. Sine 2 equals sine 2. As long as you do the same thing to both sides, it will always equal. That's obvious. Now how does this help you? Well, in that example we had, the reason you couldn't move the x to the other side is because you're not doing the same thing to both sides. Now, how can I get x on itself using this? Well, first of all, we have to get rid of this 2, like I said. And to do that, you subtract both sides by 2. Yeah? What you end up getting is this. Now, this minus 2 and 2 cancels each other out. And you end up with this, which is basically just change side. And then to get x on the other side, you find out how to get rid of this x. And to do that, you multiply by x. So you get 1 over x times x is equal to this multiplied by x. You have to multiply by x on both sides. And these x's cancel out, and you've got the answer that we had with change side. Now, why do I like this method more? It's because it makes sure you won't do mistakes. Because remember I said you couldn't just move the x to the other side, that's wrong. Now why is it wrong? Well, if you do what I said, multiply both sides by x, what you end up getting is this x cancels with this x. But this x doesn't cancel anything with the 2. You end up getting 2x plus 1 equals yx. And that's why you couldn't just move the x to the other side. Doing it this way, make sure you won't be wrong. Now, sometimes when you're rearranging equations, you have to use brackets and take out common factors. That's like a trick. Imagine you had this equation. A over c plus 7 equals b over c. Now how could you rearrange that to get c equals something? The way to do it, first of all, is you multiply both sides by c to get rid of this. So you have a over c plus 7 times c. equals b, because the c and divide by c cancels. And then you do the same thing to get rid of this fraction. So you have a times c equals b times c plus 7. Now brackets, it's quite good to break brackets when something you need is inside it. So you have ac equals bc plus 7b. Now everything's broken brackets. Now you have to get all the c's to one side. And now the trick here is to take out a common factor of c to get a c on its own. That's how you join up the two c's. And now you can finally just divide the a and b over to the other side. So that is the correct way of rearranging that to make it c equals. So yeah, let's go back a bit. In this part, I multiplied by c. In this line, I multiplied both sides by c plus 7. In this, I just broke the brackets. And then in this, I subtracted bc on both sides. Here I took out a common factor of c. And then in the last line, I divided both sides by a minus b to get c equals. So I hope you follow this. This is the correct way of rearranging equations. And so here's a bit harder example. The total energy loss, this is true by the way, in a pipe is equal to 4 times the friction factor times the length of the pipe divided by the diameter times the speed squared over 2. Don't ask me how I know that. It's because I do engineering uni and I have to remember this. But forget about that. How could you rearrange this to v squared equals, or v equals even, v equals something? You do the same thing as I've been talking about. Basically, first of all, you want to get rid of this. And to do that, you just divide by that. So if you divide both sides by 4FL over D, right, you'll get, I'll just call this E because that's a bit long. You end up getting E divided by 4FL over D is equal to 4FL over D over itself, which basically cancels out to 1. 1 times V squared over 2. So you've got this. Now, I don't like fractions over fractions. What this can be rewritten as is E times D over 4FL equals that. I'll explain how that works probably on another video. You might be able to work that out yourself. But yeah, I'll just say that that's true. Now to get the 2 away to the other side, we multiply by 2 on both sides. So that becomes 2ED over 4FL equals V squared. To get the square root to the other side now, you simply square root both sides. So you have, now just swap over, V equals the square root of 2ED over 4FL. Yeah, because if I square rooted that, the root and square root would just cancel out. So that's it. I hope you know how to rearrange equations now. I hope that helped. If you have any questions that you would like to ask me, just post it in the comment and I will try my best to help you. I'm not saying I'm a genius. I can't answer every one of your questions, but I will try my best to answer it. So I hope you do well in maths and I hope you enjoy it.